Before the city remembers its name, a man in a worn uniform unlocks a parking booth on Sunset Boulevard. To everyone else, he's just another attendant counting tickets and time. But the truth? He once owned the kind of nights these streets still dream about. The booth hums with the sound of a tired fluorescent bulb. It flickers, like it's trying to remember its own purpose. Behind its glass, the man moves with quiet precision, not rushing, not dragging, just existing in a rhythm that belongs only to those who've learned to live between noise and silence. His name tag reads William S., but no one really looks that close. They just see the uniform, the cap, and the calm way he waves them through. There was a time when his name filled rooms, when the city itself seemed to bend toward his smile. But fame is loud, and silence can feel like oxygen when you've spent years suffocating in applause. He counts the cash drawer. $184 in singles, neat stacks that feel lighter than they should. Beside the drawer, a half-empty thermos of coffee grows colder by the minute. He takes a sip, grimaces, and sets it down. There's a small notebook tucked under the counter. Black cover, rough edges, every page filled with names, numbers, and fragments of thoughts that never found a home. He writes one line before the first car arrives. Some people come to park. Others come to pause. The city stretches awake around him. The low thrum of traffic rises like a slow heartbeat. Lights blink on, one by one, across the boulevard, neon signs promising tacos, tattoos, and temporary salvation. A bus sighs at the corner. Somewhere, a saxophone tests the air for kindness. The first car rolls in, a gray Prius, dented on the passenger side. The driver, a young woman with smudged eyeliner and a script on her lap, hands him a crumpled $5. Her eyes are tired but kind. He gives her change and a smile that says he understands more than he should. "Long day ahead?" he asks. "Long life," she mutters, almost to herself, before driving off to level 2. He watches her go, then writes another note. "Gray Prius, tired eyes, longer story. Will has been here for 3 years. Long enough to memorize the rhythm of every regular, long enough to recognize the new ones by the way they hesitate at the gate." He doesn't ask for names. The plates, the cars, and the way people park tell him everything he needs to know. At 8:03 a.m., a black Escalade glides in. The windows are tinted dark, the kind of tint that money buys when it wants to stay unseen. He takes the ticket and nods, catching a faint glimpse of a woman in the back seat, oversized sunglasses, perfect posture, a wrist wrapped in hospital plastic. The driver doesn't speak. The Escalade eases forward, turning the corner like it knows where every camera is. Will writes, "Black SUV, silence too heavy to be empty." By noon, the sun burns the pavement into mirages. Heat waves dance between cars, and even the pigeons seem too tired to argue over crumbs. He steps out of the booth for a stretch. The lot smells like rubber, exhaust, and the faint sweetness of sunscreen. Across the street, a billboard stares down at him, a perfume ad with a face he recognizes but wishes he didn't. He looks away. A few years ago, his face could have been up there too. Maybe it was, for a while. But that was before the night the world stopped clapping. Before words said in anger rewrote everything he thought he knew about himself. Before he learned that public love can turn to silence faster than applause fades. He pulls the cap lower. The booth is small, but it's honest. It asks nothing from him but presence. And that, for now, is enough. A boy appears at the gate around 2 p.m. skinny, mid-teens, backpack slung too low, shoes falling apart. He offers to wash car windows for tips. The kind of hustle Will respects. He hands the boy a rag and a bottle of cleaner from under the counter. "Keep half," he says. "Give the rest back to the cars." The boy grins. "You serious?" "Dead serious," Will says, then smiles faintly. "Well, maybe not dead." The boy laughs and runs off. For a brief moment, Will feels the day soften. There's something sacred about giving someone a chance to stand where they're seen. He remembers what that used to feel like. At 5:30, the Ferrari comes. Bright red. Loud enough to make the pigeons scatter. The man behind the wheel wears sunglasses though the sun's already gone. He's young, rich, and too proud to look at the attendant when he speaks. "Hey man, take care of her, all right?" the driver says, tossing the keys to Will like it's still 1999. Will catches them without looking up. Every car's safe here. Cool. Keep it close to the exit. He parks it himself, smooth and precise, hands steady on the wheel. As the engine hums to silence, he looks at his reflection in the rearview mirror, older, softer, but still carrying that unmistakable glimmer. For a second, he sees himself again, not the man who lost everything, but the man who once believed the world was still his to fix. Then the reflection fades, replaced by the booth's window glare. Back inside, he finds a note slipped under the counter. It's written in careful, looping script. Lot 47 holds more than cars. Check the corner camera. No signature. No date. Just that. He looks up at the far corner of the lot where the oldest security camera hangs, a dusty relic no one has checked in months. He jots it down, adds a question mark. Something about the handwriting feels familiar, but he can't place it. Night crawls in slow. The city outside hums with the pulse of people pretending they're not lonely. Across the street, the taco stand switches to late-night mode, the air thick with grilled onions and laughter. Will sits in the booth, watching headlights flicker across the glass like old memories. He takes out the notebook again. Beneath his earlier notes, he writes, "Maybe this job isn't punishment. Maybe it's rehearsal." At 10:14 p.m., the black Escalade returns. The woman is still inside. Her glasses are gone. Her wristband, too. She looks at him through the open window, her face calm but unreadable. Then she leans forward, holding an envelope between two fingers. "This dropped earlier," she says. "Someone said it belonged to you." Will takes it slowly. "Who?" She hesitates. "They didn't say. But they wanted you to read it when you're alone." Before he can ask more, the SUV glides away. Inside the envelope, a script. The title, Lot 47. Beneath it, in faded ink, a story about what we overlook when we stop looking at each other. The handwriting hits him like a ghost. He knows it. He's seen it scrawled on the back of love notes, in the margins of old letters, in the final draft of a screenplay that never made it to production. He sets it aside, too afraid to turn the page. The boy from earlier returns, breathing hard, holding a folded parking ticket. "Hey, some guy dropped this. Said to give it to you." Will takes it. On the back, another note. "You've been watching everyone else's story, Will. Time to finish yours." He looks around the lot. The Escalade's gone. The Ferrari still gleams near the exit, untouched. The night air feels charged, heavy with something unseen. He opens the envelope again, finally reading the first line of the script. Int. Parking lot, night. The attendant leans into the booth light. He's not hiding. He's remembering. His chest tightens. The words read like a confession he never wrote. He flips to the second page, a scene description of a woman in an SUV, wristband still on, holding a white envelope. Then a note in the margin, "Tell the truth, no matter who's watching." The radio in the booth crackles to life, static first, then a soft voice, someone testing a mic nearby. "Check 1, check 2. All right, we're rolling." He freezes. He looks out toward the alley behind the taco stand and sees faint lights flickering, a camera crew maybe. But there's no studio nearby. Just a city full of stories pretending to be something else. He feels it then, the unmistakable sense of being inside someone else's script. A car horn blares, snapping him back. He waves the last customer through and locks up. But his mind stays on the words in that envelope. Walking home, the streets hum differently. Every sound feels amplified, laughter, music, the distant siren of something urgent. He glances at the billboard again. The woman in the perfume ad, Jada Carter. The same handwriting. The same subtle curve of her letters in that envelope. He stops under a streetlight, unfolds the script once more, and reads the dedication at the bottom of the title page. "To the man who taught me that silence can still speak." His breath catches. The light above him buzzes, then steadies. Somewhere behind him, an engine starts, smooth, expensive, familiar. He turns, but the street is empty. He tucks the script into his jacket, his pulse steady now, his expression unreadable. Maybe this was never just a parking lot. Maybe it's a crossroads, where the past waits patiently for you to circle back and finally listen. The night feels like it's holding its breath. He exhales, soft and sure. "All right," he murmurs. "Let's see where this goes." And with that, he walks home through a city that still dreams about him, unaware that the man they no longer recognize is about to change everything again, one parked car at a time. Morning arrives like a quiet apology. The sky is a pale sheet someone folded wrong, and the sun tries to iron it smooth. He is back at the booth before the street knows how to form sentences. The key turns, the drawer slides, the same old fluorescent bulb stutters, then finds its light. The script sits inside his jacket like a small engine that never shuts off. He feels its warmth even when the air is cool. He starts with the rules. Count the till. Check the cones. Walk the lanes. He taps each sign with his knuckle the way he always does, as if the metal can confirm the day exists. But the routine has a new weight. Every painted arrow feels like a choice. Every oil stain has a memory. He cannot shake the first line of the script. He is remembering. He has a job to do, and also a witness to become. The oldest camera hangs in the far corner above the loading bay. It is crooked by a few degrees, just enough to turn its gaze away from the tightest slice of the lot. He stands beneath it and looks up until his neck aches. A spider has claimed the lens and left a messy signature. It makes sense that strangers keep slipping into that blind sliver. Toes start in places like this. Money does too. He pulls a small step stool from the supply closet, sets it down, and climbs. The plastic creaks. He wipes the lens with a napkin, then angles the camera a breath to the left. The change is tiny, nearly invisible, but it fixes the view. When he climbs back down, his hands are dusty and his heart is steady. He feels like he just pushed one stone back into a wall that had started to crumble. Back in the booth, he cracks the window for air. The first cars roll in with morning eyes. He works without hurry, calm and polite. The gray Prius returns. The girl with smudged eyeliner has a clean face today and a tighter grip on her pages. She parks in the same spot she always picks, near the mural with the hidden crown. She pauses at the painting like it is new. Maybe the light changed just enough to reveal the secret he has always seen. At 9, the boy with the backpack appears, cheeks pink, breath quick. He holds up the rag from yesterday with a grin that could sell dawn to a dark room. He asks if the deal still stands. Will nods and pushes the cleaner across the counter. Half for the kid. Half for the cars. The boy salutes. He moves like music learned to walk. The tow truck circles at 10. It passes the entrance slow, pretending to look for something it already knows is there. The driver keeps his eyes forward. The truck does not enter. Not yet. It is measuring the ground like a wolf that has learned the smell of traps. Will pulls the notebook from under the counter. He draws the lot from memory, tidy rectangles like a city made of small promises. He marks the camera angles with arrows. He circles the corner blind spot that is not quite blind anymore. He adds timestamps from the last week, each tow logged by the guard, each call placed from a number that never answered him back. There is a pattern. The trucks arrive within 15 minutes of cars landing in a narrow set of spaces near the mural. All the tickets show minor time lapses. A punch-in at the booth at 8:15, a tow at 8:30, an officer signature that always looks the same. The names change. The handwriting does not. He slides the notebook aside and reopens the envelope. The script is thinner than he remembered, maybe 80 pages, soft at the edges. He flips to the scene he left last night. The writing describes a morning much like this one. It sees what he sees. It notices what he has always noticed, and it refuses to look away. In the margin, there is a single note in Jada's hand. It says, simply, keep the crown in frame. He looks up at the mural. The crown is faded but clear. He can feel the camera angle in his bones. Over the shoulder, past the booth, toward the mural, toward the corner where the tow truck likes to feed. He closes the envelope and tucks it back inside his jacket. People pay to park. He waves them through. He keeps his voice soft. He collects bills that still remember other hands. He finds small places to be kind. The lot fills. The day warms. He stands. He sits. He drinks the coffee he keeps promising he will stop drinking. There are worse lies. At noon, a woman with a stroller tries to squeeze through the painted lanes that never quite give enough room. He steps out and slows a car with a raised palm. He makes space with a smile. The stroller rolls by. The baby sleeps like a billionaire. The mother mouths a thank you and keeps moving. He registers the plate numbers around them and tucks away the sequence like a verse. He has noticed the tow company prefers cars that look tired and owners who already have too much to carry. The Ferrari slides in later than yesterday. Different driver again. Suit too tight across the shoulders, cufflinks that reflect the booth light like flashbulbs. The man's nod is courteous and cold. He leaves nothing to chance. He also leaves nothing to eye contact. Will marks the plate anyway. He has never met a plate he could not remember. A shadow falls across the counter. The black SUV is back. This time the back window lowers an inch. Jada is there. No sunglasses. No hospital band. She looks like someone who slept without rest and woke without regret. He expects words. He gets silence. It is good silence. It respects the shape of the moment. She slides a thin manila folder across the window slot. Inside are photocopies of toe slips and a short list of names. Above the list, in her careful hand, she has written, "If you draw the lines, the picture looks like a circle." She holds his eyes for a beat. The window slides up. The SUV idles toward level 2. He watches stocky shadows move inside, a driver built like the word answer, a passenger shaped like patience. He opens the folder and studies the names. The same inspector who wrote the shutdown rehearsal. The manager on the lease. The tow foreman. A security contractor who cashes checks from the vacant office next door. There is a fourth page. Newspaper clippings. An old article about a charity gala where a studio pledged a fund for neighborhood upgrades. The board photo includes the man from the Ferrari on the far edge of the frame, chin lifted, smile thin. The caption lists his title. Head of Special Projects. He wears the word like a cloak. Will sets the folder on the counter and feels the ground under the day tilt a degree. The lot has been ordinary for so long. Now it is a map. He knows maps. He used to carry them in his head to find shots and beats. Every entrance. Every exit. Every corridor where a human heart would ring loudest. He looks at the painted lanes. He sees a story moving under the tires. The boy with the backpack brings him a small bag of chips as payment for the cleaner. He says the word mentor by accident and then laughs because it feels too big. Will takes the chips and says that kindness can pay its own rent. The kid nods like a lesson just found a home. He tells Will he is working on a beat that starts slow and surges like a bus taking a hill. He taps a rhythm on the counter. Will recognizes it. He heard the same timing in the truck's loop last week. He asks the boy to record the pattern on his phone at 10-minute marks this afternoon and texts the times back to the booth. The boy does not ask why. He just nods. The right people say yes before they know how to spell it. At 3, the gray Prius returns to the booth. The young woman holds out her ticket with one hand and her script with the other. He asks how the table read went. She smiles. It did not. She says the producer told them the story lacked stakes. He knows what that sounds like. He gives her back the ticket, validated longer than policy allows. The small quiet rule he breaks is not for her. It is for the version of himself who needed it once. The crown behind her catches a blade of sun and flashes. She sees it and touches her chest like a bell just rang. The tow truck enters at 4. It wheezes past the gate like a creature pretending to be sick so no one asks questions. Will steps out of the booth and lets his body take up space. The driver has a face that looks carved instead of grown. He points at a sedan in the far lane and mimes a hook lift. Will shakes his head. The sedan is within its paid time by 5 minutes. He can show the timestamp. The driver shrugs in a way that says he has moved heavier things than truth. Will walks toward the sedan and places his palm on the hood. It is a small gesture, half prayer, half warning. The driver turns the truck toward another row. The boy with the backpack appears at the back of the lot like a scout. He is looking at his phone and counting under his breath. He mouths the numbers to Will. 10 minutes. 15. 20. The loop is exact. The truck is always exactly where the camera was once blind. The day has shifted since the spider lost its home. The driver parks and mutters into his radio. The signal crackles toward the alley. The security consultant from the clippings steps out of the taco stand with a napkin and an empty expression. He meets the driver's eyes and shakes his head once. Not today. Not here. The truck idles, then backs out slow. Will watches the rear lights until they are only red dots and then nothing at all. Back at the booth, the phone on the counter blinks. An email has arrived in the bare bones program the building uses for receipts and reminders. No sender name. No subject line. The body says, Lot 47 is the leak. Follow the receipts. A link sits beneath the letters, short and ugly. He does not click. He writes the link in his notebook by hand. He will check it later on a device that does not belong to anyone who can be bullied. He turns to the camera monitor and scrolls through the feeds. The angles are clumsy and the timestamps drift a little, but the story is visible if you squint. The trucks pass. The consultant's shadow. The Ferrari hugging the exit like a privilege. The gray Prius parked at a tender angle, script on the passenger seat. He captures stills on the ancient keyboard and saves them to a thumb drive he keeps on a chain with his keys. He returns the drive to his pocket, close to the script, so both kinds of story can feel the other's heat. The sun lowers. Everything golds. The air tastes like oranges and brake dust. People begin to arrive for the kind of night that used to own him. He watches them pour into the city's open mouth and prays the teeth are dull. The SUV rolls up near 7. Jada steps out for the first time. She keeps the door open with one hand, as if leaving a path back makes courage easier. She asks no questions across the counter. She asks with her eyes instead. He places the thumb drive on the glass. She slides a business card forward. No title. No outlet. Only her name and a number. He picks up the card and reads it once, then again. The driver of the SUV watches the street and watches him too in the reflection. Jada nods and returns to the car. Before the window closes, she says a sentence that lands like rain. Keep yourself in the frame. Then she is gone. He wants to laugh at that. He cannot. He knows she is right. All his life, he has been tempted to leave himself out of the story. The audience was a room he could hide behind. The booth has cured him of that. The booth asks a person to stand where they are and mean it. The lot swells. Music leaks from cars and bars. The mural glows when the neon across the street wakes up. The crown looks brand new for an hour. He feels something like hope find a chair and sit down beside him. Near closing, a woman in a green dress sprints across the lane, waving a ticket and a receipt. The tow truck has taken her car from the street while she sat with her father in the clinic upstairs. She is shaking in the frantic way of someone who can feel a small wrong make everything burn. Will steps out, asks her for the plate number, calls the city line, and gets a recording that speaks in circles. He tries the tow yard, then the night desk at the precinct. Voices pass him along. Names evaporate. He looks at the woman's shaking hands and makes a decision without audience or applause. He takes 2 20s from his own drawer and pushes them toward her. He writes the number of a driver he trusts on the back of a validation slip. He tells her to go and get her father home. He will fix the drawer tomorrow. He has always been good at fixing small holes in boats that keep people from drowning. When quiet returns, he chores the lot into stillness. He locks the drawer. He sweeps a stray bottle cap into the trash. He touches the booth door with his palm and says thank you under his breath. He is not sure who he is thanking. Maybe the day. Maybe the present tense. He walks the far edge near the fence and looks up the hill where the rich take pictures to prove they are alive. The air is cool and clean. The script presses against his ribs as if to say keep going. At the corner, beneath the camera that is no longer blind, he sees it. A small plastic device, black, no bigger than a thumb. It sits tucked behind the conduit like a sleeping beetle. He slides 2 fingers under it and lifts. The adhesive peels with a sigh. A tracker. Or a microphone. Or both. He holds it between finger and thumb and feels the weight of the person who came to place it. He looks at the camera and the mural and the long run of asphalt that has become a story. He places the device in his pocket and keeps walking. Halfway to the booth, the Ferrari purrs to life on its own. The lights wink, the engine breathes, then stillness again. An alarm test, he thinks. Or a message. He glances toward the security office window. A face moves behind the blinds. The bodyguard from earlier steps out of the shadows with a neutral mouth and watchful eyes. He points 2 fingers at his own eyes and then toward Will, the old sign for I see you. It is not a threat. It is a recognition. 2 men who once worked with cameras and credit lines, standing on different sides of a fence that is mostly air. Will returns to the booth and shuts down the light. The fluorescent gives one last twitch. The street outside hisses with late buses and soft laughter and a saxophone that has finally found its melody. He takes the long way home to shake the day from his feet. The city walks with him for a few blocks, then lets him go. In his apartment, he locks the door and sets the script on the table. He turns on a lamp that understands how to be gentle. He opens the envelope and reads 20 pages in one slow breath. The story is not about a famous man pretending to be small. It is about a small space making room for a larger truth. It is about receipts and blind angles and the way a crown can hide in plain sight until someone moves the light. He flips to the last page without meaning to. The ending is simple. No fireworks. The attendant opens the gate and lets the city in. He does not speak. He simply chooses. He puts the page back down where it belongs and closes the script. He looks at the dark window. His reflection looks back, familiar and new at the same time. His phone buzzes. Unknown number. He does not answer. It buzzes again. He reads the text. A picture of the lot at midnight. The photo is taken from above, from a height higher than any of his cameras. The caption says, "There are more eyes than yours." Another text arrives before he can breathe. This one is only an address and a time. The address points to a small office 2 blocks from the studio where he once lived for months at a time. The time is 2 a.m. He sets the phone on the table and looks at the script one more time. The crown from the mural pops past his eyelids when he closes them. He laughs once. It is quiet and full. He takes a jacket from the chair and slips the tracker into a pocket he rarely uses. He does not like the hour, but he understands it. Secrets prefer small clocks. He turns off the lamp and stands in the doorway for a breath before locking up again. The city holds its breath for a second longer. Then it exhales. He steps into the hall and begins to walk. The air at dawn tastes like wet concrete and second chances. Will stands at the edge of the lot, hands deep in his jacket, eyes fixed on the mural across the fence, the one with the crown that never fades completely. He's been watching it for weeks, but now it feels different. It's no longer just paint. It's a sign. A map. A reminder that even the most ordinary places can hide royal secrets if you know where to look. He adjusts the camera again, tilting it until the mural sits dead center in its frame. "Keep the crown in frame," Jada had written. He doesn't know if she meant that literally or as a metaphor, but either way, he obeys. The sun hasn't climbed over the buildings yet, but he's already sweating. The script from last night lies open on the counter beside his coffee. The same script that shouldn't exist, Lot 47. Every line feels like déjà vu. Page 23 describes the booth exactly as it stands, a small kingdom of asphalt and mercy, ruled by a man who used to be someone else. Will chuckles under his breath. Whoever wrote this knew him too well. A horn honks twice. The boy with the backpack, Jaden, waves from the gate. Same crooked smile, same oversized hoodie, same energy that makes the morning feel alive. "Morning, boss," Jaden calls. "Not your boss, kid," Will says, smiling anyway. "Still calling you that," Jaden says. "Feels right." The kid drops his backpack on the curb and pulls out a small notebook of his own, one that's been scribbled on so much the cover is gray with fingerprints. "Got your beat recorded like you asked. Truck passed 3 times last night. 10:17, 10:33, and 10:48. Same loop, man. Perfect rhythm." Will takes the notebook, nodding slowly. "You ever think rhythm's just truth trying to repeat itself?" Jaden laughs. "I just think somebody's getting ripped off." The words stick. He spends the morning reviewing the camera footage. The truck's pattern is too clean. Every pass happens in sync with a gap in the feed. 2 seconds of static each time it hits that blind corner. 2 seconds long enough to lift a car, move a piece, hide a hand. At 9:40, he catches movement behind the fence. A man in a high-visibility vest, clipboard tucked under his arm, talking to someone in a suit. The same suit from the Ferrari yesterday. He zooms in, pixel by pixel, until the badge on the vest becomes legible. City Parking Authority. Except there's no reflection sticker, no patch number. Fake. He prints the frame, pins it to the corkboard behind the counter, and draws a red line from it to a still of the Ferrari. The same time. The same spot. He's not paranoid. Not anymore. He's documenting. The lot begins to fill. Engines hum, tires squeal, laughter echoes off the walls. Another day pretending to be normal. By noon, the sun hits hard. He wipes his forehead, eyes drawn again to the mural. That crown, simple, imperfect, almost childish in its brushwork, catches the light like real gold. It's painted just above the spot where the camera used to miss. He steps closer, crouching until he can see the faint signature in the corner. D. Carter, 2016. Jada's brother. He remembers him now, the muralist who died after a construction accident that made no sense to anyone who knew him. A man who painted truth where people wanted distraction. The one who told Will years ago, art doesn't die, it hides. Will steps back, chills running down his arms despite the heat. The SUV returns around 2. Jada steps out this time. No driver. Just her, sharp eyes, hair pulled back, leather jacket like armor. She carries a camera bag and that same folder. Busy day, she says, leaning on the counter. Depends on who's watching, he answers. She studies him. You got the footage. I've got enough to make somebody nervous, he says. Question is, who? She opens the folder. Inside are property transfer forms, shell company listings, and scanned receipts with the same looping signature. The lot's been funding someone's cleanup operation, she says quietly. They tow cars off the street, strip the tech, and file them under city maintenance. Easy money. No oversight. Will stares at the forms. And this place is the hub. She nods. Lot 47. Your lot. The word your hits harder than it should. He still hasn't told her that the deed bears his own trust's name, a relic from his past life, when owning property felt like owning peace. He looks past her at the mural. You knew about my name on the papers? Jada meets his eyes. I didn't. Not until I traced the tax trail. I thought you were just another worker trying to keep your head down. He sighs. I was. For a moment, neither speaks. A city siren wails in the distance, stretching the silence thin. Finally, she says, I think your lot was chosen because of who you are. Or were. It's easier to hide corruption behind someone the world already stopped believing in. He almost laughs. Almost. That's poetic. It's cruel, she corrects. They're still staring at each other when the tow truck rolls in again, slower this time. The driver leans out, pretending to check the curb. Jada glances toward it, frowning. That's him, she whispers. That's the guy who lifted my brother's van the night he died. Will's pulse spikes. You sure? She nods. I never forget faces that lie. The truck eases closer. The driver notices them watching and tips his cap with a smirk. Will raises his hand. Friendly, neutral. But the driver's smirk fades when Will doesn't look away. It becomes a standoff, quiet and electric. Jada pulls out her phone, recording discreetly. Keep him talking, she murmurs. Will steps forward, resting one hand on the truck's hood. You're running a little heavy today, aren't you? The driver shrugs. City orders. Just doing the rounds. Funny, Will says, voice calm. City said this section's off-limits until next week. The man's jaw tightens. You sure about that? Positive. The driver glances at Jada, then back at Will. You got a lot of questions for a parking guy. Will smiles faintly. You'd be surprised what parking guys notice. A beat passes. The truck reverses slowly, tires crunching over gravel. The driver calls out through the window, "You watch too much TV, old man." Will watches until the truck disappears beyond the fence. Jada lowers her phone. "He'll report that." "Good," Will says. "Let him." They stand there a moment longer, the air between them charged with unsaid things. Then Jada gestures toward the booth. "Let's move this conversation inside." Inside, the fluorescent bulb buzzes above their heads. Jada lays out a city map on the counter, tracing lines between parking lots owned by the same trust. It's like a spider web. Lot 47 sits dead center. "This isn't just about stolen cars," she says. "Someone's moving data, hard drives, cameras, maybe even footage. You fix the blind spots, you threaten the whole setup." He leans against the counter. "You think that's why the tracker was on my fence?" "I think someone's making sure you stay predictable." He opens the notebook, showing her the red lines connecting photos and notes. They've been using patterns like music. Same rhythm every night. Jaden's recordings match the time of every tow. Jada studies the pages. "You're turning into an investigator." "Not the first time I've studied a script," he says quietly. That earns a faint smile from her, one of understanding, not pity. A car honks outside. The Ferrari again. But this time, the driver doesn't park. He stops at the gate and waves Will over. "Hey," the man says, voice steady, eyes hidden behind mirrored glasses. "Boss wants to talk. Said you'd know what it's about." Will frowns. "Who's your boss?" The man smirks. "Same one who writes all the stories." The Ferrari roars off before Will can respond. Jada looks at him. "He's threatening you." He shakes his head. "No. He's inviting me." They spend the next hour reviewing footage, marking times, drawing lines between coincidences that no longer feel accidental. At 6 p.m., Jada packs up. "I'll cross-check these names with the charity fund records. Meet me tomorrow." She hesitates at the door. "You should tell the kid to stay home tonight. It's going to get loud." He nods. "I'll handle it." After she leaves, he sits in silence. The lot glows under the sodium lights, golden and cruel. The mural's crown seems to shine brighter now, as if it knows what's coming. He calls Jaden. "Take the night off, kid." "Why?" "Something up." "Just, not tonight." "All right. You good." Will looks at the script on the counter. Page 42 is dog-eared. The scene describes a night almost exactly like this, the attendant alone, waiting, knowing too much. The line that follows hits him like thunder. The camera turns. The watcher becomes the watched. He looks up. The red recording light on the booth's main camera is blinking. He didn't turn it on. He steps outside, scanning the lot. The air hums faintly, the sound of power lines and hidden machinery. A black SUV idles across the street, headlights off. He reaches into his pocket, gripping the small tracker he found yesterday. It vibrates once, then stops. A text lights up his phone. Unknown number again. "You moved the camera. Now move." He looks toward the mural one last time. The crown glows, faint and defiant. He pockets the phone, locks the booth, and walks toward the gate. Behind him, the security feed freezes, the frame holding his reflection mid-step, haloed by the crown. And somewhere in the city, another man watches that footage and smiles. The game has officially begun. The city looks different when you stop pretending not to see. Every crack in the sidewalk, every flashing light, every person moving too fast suddenly feels like part of a larger rhythm, one that's been playing beneath Will's feet all along. He wakes before sunrise again, restless. The envelope with Lot 47 lies on the small table beside his bed. He's read it 3 times now. Each time, new lines seem to appear, lines that shouldn't be there. The truth isn't hiding, it's waiting for someone brave enough to stop lying to themselves. He folds it carefully, slides it back into the jacket, and leaves. The morning air tastes like metal. A storm's coming, not the kind with rain, the kind that rearranges everything it touches. He can feel it. When he reaches the lot, the gate is already unlocked. Someone's been here. The air smells faintly of cologne and cigarette smoke. On the counter inside the booth, A single ticket sits neatly in the drawer. No car attached. No name. Just a hand-drawn crown. He stares at it for a long time before picking it up. "Cute," he mutters, slipping it into the notebook. Message received. The first few hours pass like usual. People park, complain, rush, forget to say thank you. He watches them all with the quiet patience of a man who's already seen every ending twice. But underneath the calm, he's alert now, tuned to every strange sound, every face that lingers too long. At 10:15, the tow truck passes by again, slower this time. No car hooked. Just a reminder. The driver meets Will's eyes and taps his fingers on the steering wheel. 3 beats, a pause, then 2 more. The same rhythm Jaden recorded. Will taps the counter in reply, mocking the rhythm back. The driver frowns and drives off. Game on. He spends the rest of the morning cross-checking receipts, digging through old payment slips, tracing ink trails that should have gone cold years ago. The city's billing system still links Lot 47 to the same trust name, W.S. Urban Holdings. His name. His past. His mistake. He laughs quietly to himself. So I've been working for me this whole time. He prints the ownership papers from an old email chain, highlighting signatures that don't match. Someone's been renewing permits under his identity, cleanly, legally, invisibly. It's the perfect disguise. Who would question paperwork tied to a disgraced celebrity who vanished into silence? A sound breaks his thoughts, the faint hiss of air brakes. The black SUV. Jada steps out, hair tied up, sunglasses on. This time, she looks different, sharper, heavier, like she's been awake all night following ghosts. She leans into the booth. You were right. The trucks are linked to the city contractor that manages property seizures. They lift vehicles, strip the electronics, and bury them in inventory lists for defunct film productions. Millions disappear every quarter. Will exhales slowly. And all that money washes through my parking lot. Through your trust, she says. But I doubt you saw a dime. She lays a photograph on the counter. A man in a navy suit shaking hands with a familiar face, the Ferrari driver. Meet Paul Trenton, she says. Head of security for the same studio your trust used to bankroll. He's the fixer. The one they call when truth starts asking questions. Will studies the photo. He was here last week. Jada nods. He still is. Before she can explain, the sound of heavy tires rolls through the lot. The tow truck pulls in, too slow, too deliberate. The driver steps out, hands visible, expression unreadable. Morning, he says casually. Got a report about a damaged vehicle near the back corner. Jada's eyes flick to Will. He shakes his head. We didn't call it in. The driver shrugs. Paperwork says otherwise. I just do the pickups. Will leans forward, voice calm. Then you won't mind showing me the report. The man smirks. You really like paperwork, huh? I like proof, Will says. The driver glances toward the SUV, recognizes Jada, and his smile falters. You're the reporter, he mutters. Didn't think you'd crawl this far down. Jada doesn't flinch. Truth always crawls first. Then it climbs. The man's expression hardens. You both should be careful. Some stories cost more than they pay. He turns to leave, but Will steps in front of him, blocking the door. For a brief second, they stand face to face. One man used to running from cameras, the other used to hiding behind them. Here's the thing about stories, Will says quietly. Even the ones you try to bury have a way of digging back up. The driver's smirk returns, smaller this time, meaner. Then you better pray you're not standing over the hole when it happens. He walks back to the truck, slams the door, and pulls out of the lot. Jada watches him go. He's not bluffing. Will looks down at the asphalt, the fresh marks from the truck's tires. No, he says softly. He's warning me. That night, Will stays late. He rewinds camera feeds, zooms in on every frame, scribbles timestamps until the pages blur. He catches a glint of something near the fence, a license plate lying face down in the dirt. He walks out, picks it up, brushes the dust away. The number matches the car that belonged to D. Carter, Jada's brother. He feels the air drain from his lungs. Back inside, he places the plate on the counter, staring at it like it might start talking. The black SUV returns an hour later. Jada steps out before it even stops. "Please tell me you didn't," she begins, but then she sees it. Her hand flies to her mouth. "He was towed," Will says. "Right from this lot." Jada shakes her head. "No. He was killed in a construction accident." "Accidents don't leave tire tracks," Will interrupts softly. Silence swells between them. Finally, Jada whispers, "Then this isn't about money anymore." "No," Will says. "It's about cleanup. They're erasing anyone who saw too much." She sinks against the counter, eyes wet but fierce. "Then we make sure they don't get the last word." He hands her the license plate. "We will. But first, we need evidence no one can erase." Together, they scan every minute of camera footage from the last month. The pattern emerges clearly now. Every illegal tow begins exactly 45 seconds after a city maintenance truck passes the same spot. 2 different crews, working in sync. Will overlays timestamps, circles matching movements. "See this," he says. "They're using the maintenance trucks as decoys." Tow follows, cleans up, replaces evidence. Jada takes a deep breath. "If we leak this, they'll burn everything." "I don't want to leak it," he says. "I want to show it." "How?" He glances at the script on the counter. "Same way I used to tell every story. We film it." Her eyes widen. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," he says. "Tomorrow night. We catch them live. The truck, the fake tow, the exchange." Jada hesitates, then nods. "I'll get a hidden camera rig. You handle the angles." She pauses at the door, turns back. "Why help me, Will? You don't owe me anything." He looks out at the lot, the mural, the crown shining faintly in the dark. "Maybe not you," he says. "But I owe the truth." When she leaves, the silence feels heavier than usual. He steps outside, breathes in the cool night air, and looks up at the mural. Under the flickering streetlight, the crown seems to shift, brighter, bolder, like it's been freshly painted. He touches the fence gently. "All right," he murmurs. "You win." Back inside, he opens the script again. Page 57 waits for him. The heading reads, "Int. Parking lot, night." The attendant prepares for the reveal. But someone else is already watching. He glances up. The security camera's red light blinks. Steady. Watching. He leans back, staring into the glass until his reflection splits in two, the man he was and the man he's becoming. The city outside hums, alive and hungry. Somewhere, an engine starts, low and deliberate. Tomorrow night, everything changes. He closes the booth, locks the drawer, and whispers the words he used to say before every scene, back when his name still meant something. Lights. Camera. Truth. And for the first time in years, he means it. By dawn, the city feels lighter, unaware that its underbelly is already shifting. The air outside Lot 47 smells of wet pavement and diesel, the scent of work that never really ends. Will arrives earlier than usual, a habit he can't shake when something in his chest starts whispering that the day will test him. He unlocks the booth, turns on the flickering light, and sits with his coffee steaming beside the script. His eyes linger on the title again, Lot 47. The paper is creased, worn at the corners, but somehow it still feels alive, as if every time he opens it, it breathes with him. He slides his notebook closer and begins his morning ritual, tracing names, timestamps, receipts. But this time, he digs deeper. He logs into an old email account, one he hasn't used since fame still felt like currency. The password still works. His stomach tightens when he sees what's inside. Bank notices. Property tax reminders. All addressed to W.S. Urban Holdings, LLC. The same trust name on the parking lot's deed. He scrolls through archived messages. A digital signature flashes on each form, his own. Except he never signed them. Someone's been using his dormant company to buy up land, lease it out, and funnel city contracts through it. The trail runs deeper than a single parking lot. He clicks open the newest statement, eyes narrowing. The transactions loop between shell companies he doesn't recognize: Redline Maintenance Group, Vista Realty Holdings, Lot 47 Security Services. He exhales, half a laugh, half disbelief. They used my silence as camouflage. A memory flickers. His accountant years ago warning him to dissolve the old trusts. His refusal: he couldn't let go back then, not when everything he built had started slipping. Now, that stubbornness has turned into a hiding place for someone else's crime. The door creaks. He looks up. It's Jada, hair-tied, eyes sharp. She steps in without a word and places a coffee cup beside his. "You didn't sleep." "Neither did you," he says. She smirks faintly. "We're both allergic to ignorance." He swivels the laptop toward her. "Turns out the lot belongs to me. At least, on paper. But these contracts," he scrolls down, showing the payment trail. "These are ghosts. They move money through companies I didn't know existed." Jada studies the screen. "They used your name to make it look clean. No one questions paperwork with a Hollywood signature." Will leans back, rubbing his eyes. "I've been guarding their crimes while pretending to mind my own business." "Don't," she says softly. "You've been protecting people. The difference matters." Before he can respond, the lot phone rings, a sound that rarely breaks the morning calm. He hesitates, then answers. "Lot 47. A smooth male voice replies. "Mr. Smith. Or should I say, Mr. Urban Holdings." Will's grip tightens. "Who is this?" "You own something that doesn't belong to you anymore," the man says. "We'd like to resolve that quietly." "What makes you think I'm interested in quiet?" The voice chuckles. "Because the last time you made noise, the world stopped clapping." A cold silence fills the booth. The man continues, voice calm. "We can make this easy. Sign over the trust. Walk away. The papers will arrive this afternoon. Or we remind the city why you disappeared." The line goes dead. Jada watches his face. "Who was that?" "Someone who thinks I scare easy." "You think it's Trenton?" He nods slowly. "And whoever's feeding him the paperwork trail." Jada sets down her coffee. "All business now. Then we hit first. The story goes public." He hesitates. "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because I need to see how deep it goes, and who's still holding my pen." She narrows her eyes. "You sound like a man ready to step into the fire." He glances at the mural through the booth window, the painted crown catching morning light. "Maybe it's time." By noon, the lot hums with its usual rhythm: cars, conversations, the endless choreography of strangers. But beneath it, Will feels tension building like a storm beneath the asphalt. He spends hours combing through the trust's old files, matching digital signatures, pulling transaction IDs. One name keeps appearing: Elias Monroe, listed as co-signer on every recent renewal. He frowns. Elias Monroe used to handle his contracts back in the studio days, a fixer known for making bad stories disappear before they reached headlines. The kind of man who knew how to bury truth under paperwork. He prints one of the contracts, holds it up to the light. The ink shines faintly, fresh, not aged. Someone forged it within the last year. Before he can think it through, a shadow crosses the booth. He looks up. A city inspector stands at the window, clipboard in hand, smile polite but hollow. "Afternoon, sir. Got a notice for Lot 47. Will takes the envelope and scans the letter inside. Violation: improper storage of hazardous materials. Immediate closure pending investigation. He looks back up. Hazardous materials? This is a parking lot. The inspector shrugs. Just doing my job. Will studies the man's eyes, steady, rehearsed. You wouldn't happen to work for Trenton, would you? The inspector's smile flickers. I work for the city. Of course, Will says flatly. And I'm the Pope. The man leaves the envelope and walks away without another word. Will flips it over. There's a second note taped beneath the official letterhead, a handwritten message in sharp black ink. Told you to stay quiet. By evening, the lot feels different. Too still. Even the usual pigeons have gone. Will locks the booth, steps outside, and looks around. The mural, the fence, the cars lined neatly in rows. The world looks normal, but he knows better now. He calls Jada. They sent a closure order. She curses under her breath. That's fast. They're accelerating. We don't have time for another plan. Then we go live tonight, she says. We film whatever happens. He hesitates. If this goes wrong, they'll destroy us. If we stay quiet, they already have. He doesn't argue. At sunset, she arrives with her camera bag and that same determined look she's had since the beginning, a blend of fury and focus. Together they set up hidden lenses along the fence line, one facing the mural, one toward the entry gate, another fixed on the booth itself. This is dangerous, she murmurs, double-checking the equipment. So silence, Will replies. They work until the light fades. The sky deepens into violet, the crown glowing faintly against it. Will adjusts his cap, takes his position behind the counter, and waits. The first hour passes uneventfully. A few customers, some laughter from the taco stand, a gentle breeze threading through the lot. Then, at 10:27 p.m., the tow truck rolls in. No headlights this time. Just the low growl of its engine and the sharp gleam of steel under the streetlight. The driver steps out, followed by two men in suits, one of them unmistakably Paul Trenton. His presence poisons the air. Will opens the window halfway. Evening. Lots closed. Trenton smiles like a man who's never heard the word no. Not for us. He glances at the camera on the booth roof, the one Will deliberately left visible. You've been busy. Just doing my job, Will says evenly. Funny, Trenton says, stepping closer. So am I. He hands Will a thick envelope. Transfer of ownership. Sign it, and you never hear from us again. Will doesn't take it. You forged my name once already. Do it again. Trenton's jaw tightens. You've got guts. I'll give you that. I've had worse critics. The driver snickers. Trenton doesn't. Last chance, Will. Sign it, or tomorrow the city sees headlines you can't survive. Will meets his eyes, steady. You're late. The cameras are already rolling. For the first time, Trenton flinches. His gaze flicks toward the fence, toward the faint red dots of recording lights he can't quite see but knows are there. Big mistake, he says, voice low. Maybe, Will replies. But it's mine to make. Trenton steps back, motioning to his men. Pack it up. We're done here. The truck reverses out of the lot, its taillights bleeding into the darkness. Jada emerges from behind the booth, breath shaky but triumphant. You just scared the devil out of the devil. Will shakes his head. No. I just told him I'm not his disguise anymore. They review the footage, every angle clean, every threat caught on tape. Proof that the corruption goes higher than the lot itself. Jada exhales, smiling for the first time in days. This is enough to break the story wide open. Then let's do it, he says. As they pack up the gear, Will catches one last glimpse of the mural. The crown gleams brighter than ever, gold against the black sky, as if the city itself is saluting him. For years, he thought he'd lost his voice. Tonight, he found it again, not on a stage, not on a screen, but right here in the quiet of a parking lot. He looks at Jada. Tomorrow, we show them everything. She nods. Tomorrow, the city remembers your name. He smiles faintly. No, he says. They'll remember the truth. But as they drive off, a single figure remains in the shadows across the street, the tow truck driver, phone in hand, murmuring to someone unseen. Yeah, he says quietly. He's ready. Just like you said. And from the other end of the line, a voice replies, cold and certain. Good. Tomorrow, we end lot 47. The sun rises dull and heavy, like a stage light burned too long. Lot 47 feels off, the way a room feels right before an argument. The mural's crown still glows, but the rest of the wall seems darker now, almost bruised. Will arrives early again. He's wearing the same uniform, but something in the way he walks has changed. He moves like a man preparing for war but hoping it won't come to that. The coffee in his hand shakes slightly, not from fear, but from knowing what fear used to feel like and realizing it's trying to find him again. The booth is quiet. Too quiet. No receipts on the counter, no morning shift chatter on the radio. Just a sealed envelope taped to the glass window. He pulls it down. Inside, another city notice. Immediate suspension of operations pending inspection. Violation, unauthorized recording of private individuals on city property. He lets out a soft laugh. They move fast. From the street, the sound of boots on pavement. Two uniformed men approach, one carrying a clipboard, the other holding a padlock. Behind them, a city van idles with the words Department of Infrastructure and Code Enforcement painted across its side in chipped white letters. "Sir," one of the men says, "we're here to secure the premises. You'll have to vacate immediately." Will looks up from the notice. "You have a warrant." The man hesitates. "We have orders." "Orders aren't law." "Sir." "Listen," Will interrupts, calm but firm. "This lot has contracts still active. Cars parked here legally. You shut it down now, you're breaking more than protocol, you're breaking property law." The second man, younger and clearly uncomfortable, lowers his padlock. "We're just doing what we were told, Mr. Smith." Will softens. "I get that. I've been there. But what if the person telling you what to do is lying?" The younger man looks down. The older one clears his throat. "If you have an issue, you can appeal to the city board." "Already did," Will says, stepping closer. "They'll tell you the appeal takes 30 days. You know how much damage gets done in 30 days. The older inspector sighs. "Look, sir. I'm sorry. Orders are orders." He starts to close the booth window, but Will steps forward, blocking it with his palm. "Then let me make it easy," Will says quietly. "You'll have to call the cops to drag me out." The older man looks at him for a long moment, then glances at the lot around them. A dozen cars, a few customers watching curiously, the mural with its golden crown staring down like a silent witness. Finally, he lowers the clipboard. "We'll come back," he mutters. "I know," Will says. "I'll be here." They leave. The van drives off. But Will knows they'll return with more muscle next time. He exhales and leans against the counter. "So this is how they do it," he says softly. "They don't erase the truth. They suffocate it." By mid-morning, word spreads. The taco stand owner across the street, Marco, walks over, wiping his hands on his apron. "Heard they're trying to shut you down," he says. "That true?" "Looks that way," Will answers. Marco frowns. "Man, you're the only one around here who watches our cars when the tow guys get greedy. We can't lose this place." Behind him, two regulars nod in agreement. Within an hour, others arrive, locals, drivers, street vendors, each carrying something small but real. Brooms, paint cans, gloves. They start sweeping the lot, repainting faded lines, scrubbing graffiti off the wall. "What's all this?" Will asks, half smiling. "Inspection day," Marco says. "Can't shut down what looks spotless." Will looks around, a dozen people moving like a quiet army. No orders, no speeches, just hands doing what's right. It moves him in a way applause never did. At noon, Jada arrives. She's wearing a gray hoodie instead of her usual jacket, camera bag slung across her shoulder. "Heard you've got a clean-up crew," she says. "Didn't plan it," Will replies. "They just showed up. That's what happens when people trust you." He glances at her. "You still got the footage?" She nods. "Multiple backups. And I sent copies to 3 different sources. If they shut you down, the story still breathes." He smiles faintly. "Smart." She looks around. "You know this is more than a parking lot now, right?" "Yeah," he says. "Feels like a stage again." They work together repainting the booth door while the others scrub oil stains. The mural catches the afternoon light, the crown shining brighter than ever. At one point, Will pauses, watching Jada film quietly, capturing faces, laughter, the unspoken unity that fills the space. "You're making something," he says. "Documentation," she answers. "For when they pretend none of this happened." He nods. "Good." The boy with the backpack, Jaden, shows up a few hours later, breathless. Heard the city's trying to lock you out. That true? Yeah, Will says. But it looks like we're locking them out instead. Jaden grins. Then let me help. He sets down his backpack and joins the others, painting fresh stripes along the lot's edge. The rhythm of his brush strokes almost sounds like the beat he recorded, steady, precise, defiant. By 5 p.m., the place looks brand new. Fresh lines, polished signs, trimmed shrubs. The inspectors return, this time with the same van, same men. But something in their posture shifts when they see the crowd waiting for them. The older inspector clears his throat. Mr. Smith. We need to. Will gestures around. Still think this place violates code? The younger inspector hesitates. It looks fine to me. The older one scans the lot, sees the cameras set up on the fence, the phone screens recording every word. He straightens. We'll review and get back to you. Take your time, Will says. We'll keep it open in the meantime. The inspectors leave without another word. When their van turns the corner, the lot erupts in soft applause, small, uncertain, but real. Will raises a hand. Thank you, all of you. Really. A woman from the taco stand calls out, You kept us safe for years, Will. Time we return the favor. He swallows hard. Guess I should have been charging extra for protection. Laughter ripples through the group. For a moment, everything feels almost normal. Jada catches his eye, smiling. You realize you just turned a parking lot into a protest? He shrugs. Guess I'm still good at drawing a crowd. But peace never lasts long in this city. At 8 p.m., after the crowd disperses, the lot settles into quiet again. The sun has slipped behind the hills, and the air cools. Will locks up the drawer and checks the camera feeds, all clear. He's halfway through his last sip of coffee when headlights flash across the glass. The Ferrari. But this time, the man who steps out isn't wearing a suit. It's Paul Trenton. He's alone, no driver, no entourage. Just him, hands in his coat pockets, calm, composed. Will doesn't move. Trenton walks slowly toward the booth, stopping just short of the window. Busy day, I see. Will doesn't answer. Trenton glances around. Nice work. The paint, the crowd, the little speech. You're better at this than I expected. Not as good as you at lying, Will says. Trenton smirks. Oh, I don't lie. I just pick better truths. He taps the booth glass lightly. You know what I realized, Will? You're not trying to save this place. You're trying to save yourself. That's noble. But this city doesn't do noble. Will meets his gaze. Then maybe it needs a reminder. Trenton's expression doesn't change. Careful. The last man who tried to remind this city ended up under a mural. A chill slides through Will's chest. You killed him. Trenton shrugs. He killed his own story. I just ended the rewrite. Before Will can speak, the roar of engines echoes from the street. Two tow trucks turn the corner, headlights blazing. Trenton leans closer, his voice barely above a whisper. You wanted an audience? You've got one now. He walks back to his car and drives off, leaving the trucks idling at the gate. Will stands frozen for a moment, then reaches for his phone. Jada, he says when she answers. They're here. Record everything, she replies. I'm on my way. He switches the booth camera to live stream. The trucks pull forward, blocking both exits. Men jump out, unmarked jackets, gloves on. They move like a practiced unit. One calls out, by order of city code, this lot is seized. Will steps forward, unflinching. Not tonight. The man smirks. You gonna stop us, old man? Will lifts the camera in his hand. I won't have to. The world's watching. The man freezes, eyes darting to the glowing red light on the booth roof. The others hesitate. Then one curses and yells, Kill the feed! A pipe swings, shattering the side camera. But the stream keeps running from another angle. Voices rise, metal clangs, chaos floods the night. Jada's SUV screeches into the lot, lights off. She jumps out with a second camera, filming everything. Keep rolling. Will shouts. A man lunges toward her. Will steps in, grabbing his arm, twisting until the wrench clatters to the ground. For a brief moment, their eyes lock, two men bound by fear, both realizing it's too late to undo what's begun. Sirens blare in the distance. The tow crews scatter, engines screaming as they flee into the dark. Jada lowers her camera, breath shaking. You okay? Will nods, chest heaving. I think we just passed inspection. She laughs weakly. The footage. He checks the screen. Got everything. Above them, the mural's crown glows under the flashing red and blue of the approaching police cars. For the first time, it doesn't look painted. It looks earned. Will leans against the booth, exhausted, blood on his knuckles, but smiling through it. You said the city doesn't do noble, he murmurs, looking toward where Trenton's car disappeared. Let's see if it still does truth. And as the police arrive and the cameras keep rolling, Will finally understands what the crown was never about power, it was about purpose. Lot 47 wasn't just his punishment. It was his redemption. But redemption, he knows, always comes with a price. And by morning, he'll find out just how high it is. The morning after the raid, the lot feels too clean, like the city's trying to pretend nothing happened. The asphalt glistens from the dew, the air smells faintly of oil and smoke, and the crown on the mural seems brighter than ever. But Will can feel it. The stillness isn't peace. It's the kind of quiet that waits for the next punch. He unlocks the booth slowly, half expecting another envelope or warning taped to the glass. Nothing. Just the faint hum of the fluorescent bulb overhead. His knuckles are still sore from last night. He rolls them gently, then exhales. Congratulations, he mutters to himself. You survived the rehearsal. He powers up the monitor. All cameras are offline, smashed, disconnected, or stolen. Only one feed flickers back to life, the booth camera. It's angled slightly off-center, but still recording. On the screen, Will sees himself, tired, older, hands trembling as he straightens the counter. Watching his own reflection like a stranger. He's still staring when the gate creaks open. A single black SUV pulls in, slower than usual. Jada steps out before the engine even cuts. She's wearing sunglasses though the sky is gray. She doesn't smile this time. She walks straight to the booth and slides a folded newspaper across the glass. Front page, ex-actor involved in parking lot brawl amid corruption allegations. Will freezes. The photo shows him mid-grab, holding the man who attacked Jada, cropped just enough to look violent. The headline is framed like a scandal, not a stand. They flipped it, Jada says quietly. They're turning you into the distraction. He reads the subheading. Former celebrity caught on tape during altercation. Investigation underway into his ownership of several Los Angeles properties under Urban Holdings. He looks up at her. They're making me the story. That's the point, she says. They want the footage gone. The quickest way is to discredit the man holding it. He sets the paper down. We still have the raw files, right? Jada shakes her head. 2 of the backups are corrupted. The 3rd drive disappeared from my bag last night. He closes his eyes, steadying his breath. They got to you. She nods. And to you. She reaches into her jacket and pulls out a small memory card. This is all that's left. I made 1 extra copy before I left the studio. Will takes it, weighing it in his hand. The truth fits in something smaller than a postage stamp. Jada's voice softens. They're not just after you anymore, Will. They want me off this story too. My editor's getting pressure from the city board. He looks at her, calm. Then we don't give them time to kill it. We go public tonight. She hesitates. You sure? He nods. If I learned anything, it's that silence looks too much like consent. By noon, the lot begins to fill again. Business as usual, or so it seems. But Will notices something odd. New faces, expensive cars, people parking without paying and staring at him a little too long before walking off. He writes down every plate. He's learned by now that patterns matter. At 2 p.m., Marco from the taco stand walks over, holding 2 burritos. On the house, he says. You got half the block talking last night. You're a damn hero. Will chuckles. Heroes usually retire before the city calls them criminals. Mako shrugs. Yeah, well, criminals usually got better hearts. Will takes the food, grateful. But behind Marco, he catches a reflection in the booth window. A man standing near the alley, watching. Clean haircut. No uniform. No expression. When Marco leaves, Will steps out to the edge of the lot. The man's gone. He returns to the booth, unease settling in. He inserts the memory card into his laptop, watching the thumbnail load, footage from last night. The tow trucks. The confrontation. Jada's camera angle catching everything. Then, as the video starts to play, a pop-up flashes on screen. File corrupted. Cannot open. He stares at the message. Then again. And again. It's gone. His reflection on the dark screen looks back at him. The mirror version of a man who keeps trying to save the truth before it slips through his fingers. All right, he murmurs. So that's how you want to play it. Jada returns just after dusk. The air is cooler now, the streetlights humming like insects. She doesn't even step out of the SUV this time. They pulled my credentials, she says. Officially, I'm suspended. Unofficially, I'm radioactive. Will leans against the booth. Welcome to my world. She smirks weakly. I should have expected it. You were the test case. You still have your voice, he says. Use it. They're watching everything. Even my phone. He thinks for a moment, then gestures to the mural. That crown's still standing. Maybe that's where we start again. Jada frowns. You want to use the mural? Symbolism still scares powerful people, he says. And the city can't censor paint. She studies him for a long moment, then smiles faintly. You're not just surviving this, are you? No, he says quietly. I'm rewriting it. At 8:30, he closes the booth early. The lot empties. Even the street noise feels distant. He stands beneath the mural, staring at the gold crown glinting under the lights. He remembers the night the artist painted it. D. Carter, Jada's brother. He remembers the smell of paint, the radio playing, the laughter echoing through the empty lot. Every king needs a kingdom, D. had said. Even if it's just concrete. Now the words feel heavier. Will picks up a can of gold spray paint from the maintenance box and shakes it. The rattle echoes like bones in a tin. He paints 3 new words beneath the crown in steady, deliberate strokes. See each other. When he steps back, the phrase shines bright under the streetlight, bold and defiant. For a moment, he feels free. Then headlights flash behind him. The Ferrari. He turns, already knowing who it is. Trenton steps out, alone again. Hands in his pockets, calm as a man taking a walk in his own backyard. Nice addition, Trenton says, nodding toward the mural. Very poetic. You here to admire it or paint over it? Will asks. Trenton smiles thinly. Neither. I'm here to finish this. He steps closer, stopping inches away. You've had your fun. The press will chew you up by morning. Your footage is gone, your reputation's gone, your little crowd will move on to the next cause. This is your last night in this booth. Will doesn't flinch. You keep saying last night. You don't realize I've been living on borrowed nights for years. Trenton's voice drops lower. You should have stayed forgotten. And you should have stayed unseen, Will replies. Something shifts in Trenton's expression, a flicker of anger cracking through his calm. You think this is about truth? This city runs on lies. People like you made them rich. Maybe, Will says softly. But I don't owe them my silence anymore. Trenton exhales slowly, almost disappointed. Then I guess we're done talking. He reaches into his coat. For one breathless second, Will sees the faint glint of metal. Then, hey! A voice rings out. Jaden. The kid standing near the gate, holding up his phone, streaming live. Smile for the camera, Mr. Trenton. Trenton freezes. The light from the phone screen reflects off his face, exposing every line, every flicker of guilt. For the first time, Will sees fear in the man's eyes. You don't want to do this, Trenton says quietly. Jaden steps closer. You don't get to tell me what truth looks like, man. Trenton hesitates, then lowers his hand and turns away. This isn't over, he mutters, disappearing into the Ferrari. The car speeds off into the night, leaving silence in its wake. Will turns to Jaden, shaking his head. You could have been hurt. Jaden grins. Nah. You said the city needs to see itself. I figured I'd start with him. Will laughs softly, the first real laugh he's had in months. You're braver than I ever was. Nah, Jaden says. You just forgot what brave feels like. They both look up at the mural. The crown gleams gold above the new words, see each other. For a long time, neither of them speaks. The city hums, alive again, restless and beautiful. Will finally breaks the silence. Tomorrow, they'll try again. With headlines, inspectors, lies. But now they'll know one thing. Jaden tilts his head. What's that? That I'm not hiding anymore. The boy nods, thoughtful. Then I'll be here too. Will looks at him, really looks, and sees in Jaden's face everything this place was meant to protect. The overlooked. The ordinary. The next generation. He smiles. Deal. As they lock up the lot, the night settles soft and thick around them. Somewhere far off, a siren wails, fading into the hum of traffic. Will glances back at the mural one last time. His reflection in the booth window overlaps with the crown above his head. The mirror and the knife, both still there. But now, he's learned how to hold them without bleeding. Tomorrow will come with new battles. But tonight, Lot 47 belongs to the light again. The summons comes at dawn, a crisp white envelope slid beneath the booth door, stamped with the city seal and the faint scent of cologne. Inside, a single page. Notice of mandatory hearing subject, code violations, financial misconduct, and public disturbance, Lot 47. Date, today. Location, City Hall, room 214B. No lawyer. No warning. No chance to prepare. Exactly how Trenton likes it. Will sits in the booth for a long time, staring at the notice. The word misconduct hangs in his mind like a bruise. He's been blamed before, for outbursts, for pride, for refusing to bow to an audience that wanted more than a man could give. But this time, the stage is smaller and the stakes are heavier. He folds the paper neatly and slips it into his pocket. He's not going to run. Not again. By the time he reaches City Hall, the sky is the color of tarnished silver. A dozen news vans line the street, cameras humming, reporters murmuring into microphones. Someone leaked the hearing. He can feel the eyes following him as he walks up the steps. Not angry eyes, not admiring, curious, like spectators at a public autopsy. Inside, the building smells like wax and dust. A clerk checks his ID, glances at the name, William Smith, and stiffens. Recognition flickers for half a second, then dies. She hands him a visitor badge without a word. Room 214B is smaller than he imagined, a rectangular box with bad lighting and a too-loud air conditioner. The long wooden table at the front holds 3 city officials in suits that don't quite fit. In the back row, a few local journalists sit with notepads ready, pens poised like scalpels. And on the far side of the room, smiling like the devil who's already read the ending, Paul Trenton. He's not sitting with the officials. He doesn't need to. He's the man who makes their orders sound legal. Will takes his seat at the opposite end of the table. His chair squeaks loudly in the silence, a small rebellion in a room designed to intimidate. The lead official, a woman with an impeccable bun and a voice like a judge who's late for lunch, clears her throat. Mr. Smith, she begins. This hearing is to determine the future of Lot 47 and to address concerns regarding your recent behavior and ownership status. My behavior, Will repeats quietly. She continues, unfazed. You were involved in a physical altercation last week, recorded by multiple witnesses. You also appear to have conducted unauthorized filming of city contractors. Both are violations of municipal code. Will leans forward. And what about the contractors lifting cars that don't belong to them? Or the shell companies funneling public money through fake maintenance accounts? The officials exchange glances. One of them coughs. The woman says, that's not the subject of this hearing. Maybe it should be, Will says. Trenton shifts slightly in his chair, smirking. He speaks for the first time. Mr. Smith, I think we all understand your enthusiasm. But this isn't a film set. It's a city hearing. Try to stay in character. A murmur ripples through the room. The officials hide small smiles. The journalists' pens move faster. Will exhales, slow and steady. He looks directly at Trenton. You're right. It's not a film set. There's no script here. Just people who forgot which side of the camera they're on. Trenton's smirk fades. Jada enters quietly from the back. She wasn't invited. He knows that from the way the guards shift in their seats, but she's here anyway, clutching her camera bag and a stack of papers. Her voice cuts through the tension like a blade. Actually, she says, there is a script. And you're all in it. The officials turn, startled. Excuse me. She strides to the table, places the papers down. These are copies of the tow logs from the last 6 months. Every illegal seizure, every forged report, every fake signature. All tied to a company owned by Mr. Trenton's partners. Trenton doesn't flinch, but a muscle in his jaw twitches. Will watches quietly, a small smile forming. Told you she'd show up. The lead official flips through the papers. These can't be authenticated on the spot. Funny, Jada says. That's what you said about my brother's case. Until the evidence vanished. The room goes still. Trenton breaks the silence. This is a circus. She's a disgraced journalist, he's a washed-up actor, and you're letting them turn a code review into a conspiracy theory. Will stands. You call it a conspiracy. I call it a city bleeding in silence. People's cars stolen, lives wrecked, and the only ones profiting are the ones with pens instead of guns. He turns toward the officials. You want a statement? Here it is. Lot 47 is mine. The papers prove it. And I'm done watching other people use my name to build a graveyard for truth. Trenton's voice sharpens. Sit down, Will. Will meets his eyes. You had your turn. Jada hits a button on her recorder. A voice crackles through the speaker, audio from the night of the raid. Trenton's voice, clear as glass. He killed his own story. I just ended the rewrite. Gasps ripple through the room. One of the journalists stands up. Is that? Jada nods. Yes. That's Paul Trenton admitting his role in the death of artist David Carter. Recorded last night, outside Lot 47. Trenton lunges forward, but Will steps in front of him, calm and unflinching. Careful, Will says. Every move you make now writes another headline. Security steps between them. The officials whisper urgently among themselves. One of them picks up a phone, leaving the room in a rush. Jada lowers the recorder. You wanted the truth, she says to the panel. Now it's your move. Will looks at her, and for the first time in a long time, he sees something pure in the moment. Not anger, not victory, just relief. The kind that comes when the world finally hears what you've been screaming into the void. The hearing adjourns in chaos. Cameras flash, questions fly, but Will doesn't stop to answer. Outside, the steps of City Hall are a storm of noise. Reporters shout his name, shoving microphones in his face. Mr. Smith, did you strike a deal with the city? Are you admitting to illegal filming? Is it true Lot 47 was part of a criminal cover-up? He ignores them all. He's not playing that game anymore. Jada catches up, breathless. The recording's already viral. Someone leaked the full audio. Good, Will says. Let them talk. She laughs softly. You realize you just made yourself a target again. He nods. Better a target than a ghost. They walk down the steps together. For the first time, he notices the crowd waiting beyond the reporters, regular people. The taco stand owner. The gray Prius girl. Jaden, holding his phone high, live streaming the moment. When Will reaches the bottom of the steps, the crowd parts. Someone starts clapping. Then another. Then the sound spreads, not like celebrity applause, but like something warmer. Human. He doesn't wave. He doesn't smile. He just nods once, eyes wet. Beside him, Jada whispers, You did it. He shakes his head. We did. She glances at him, curious. So what now? He looks out at the horizon, where the city glows in the fading light. Now, he says, we make sure it never happens again. Behind them, sirens wail as city police escort Trenton out of the building, cuffed and silent. For the first time, Will doesn't feel the weight of the crown, just the steadiness of the ground beneath his feet. The truth isn't buried anymore. It's awake. The morning after the hearing, the city is loud again. Not angry, alive. Headlines flash across screens, talk shows dissect every moment, and for the first time in years, Will's name isn't attached to scandal or shame. It's attached to a story that made people stop scrolling. He stands at the corner across from Lot 47, coffee in hand, cap pulled low. The crowd has thinned since yesterday, but a few curious strangers linger, snapping pictures of the mural. Someone has left fresh flowers at its base. In gold paint, the words see each other shimmer against the morning light. He smiles. "Guess you made it, D," he whispers, glancing up at the crown. Across the lot, Jaden is already there, sitting cross-legged on the curb with his cracked phone plugged into a portable speaker. The beat he plays isn't polished, just a soft pulse of rhythm looping under a sample of Will's voice from an old interview. You can lose the whole world and still find yourself in 1 square foot of grace. Will crosses over. "That you?" Jaden grins. "Dropped it online last night. Hashtag Lot 47 is trending, man. People are remixing your words, painting crowns all over downtown." Will laughs, shaking his head. "Never thought I'd go viral for telling the truth." "Better than for slapping someone," Jaden teases. Will winces, but there's humor in his eyes. "Yeah. Let's not repeat that era." They sit together in comfortable silence as the beat continues. People pass by, delivery drivers, street vendors, a woman jogging with her dog. Every one of them slows when they see the mural. Some smile. Some touch the wall lightly as they pass, like it's a prayer. Jaden tilts his head toward the booth. "You ever gonna open again?" Will sips his coffee, watching the light play on the glass. "Maybe. Maybe not. It's not about parking anymore." "So what's it about?" He thinks for a moment. "Space," he says finally. "Creating it. Holding it. For people who don't get much of it." Jaden nods, tapping his knee in rhythm. "That's deep, man. Don't make it sound corny." "Too late." They laugh, and for the first time in a long time, it sounds easy. By noon, reporters return. Jada too, wearing a white shirt, hair loose, no cameras this time. She walks like someone who's been through fire and came out carrying light. "Got a minute?" she asks. "For you." "Always." She hands him a folded paper. "The city's dropped all charges. You're officially the owner again. Full control." He unfolds the document, scans it, then smiles faintly. "You fought for this." "We both did," she says. "And I think it's time you decide what to do with it." He looks around the lot, the booth, the mural, the fence that's seen too much. "Maybe it shouldn't just be mine anymore." "What are you thinking?" He gestures toward Jaden, who's bobbing his head to the beat. "A place for stories. For voices that don't get heard unless they're screaming." Jada nods slowly. "A community space?" "Something like that," he says. "Music, film, workshops. No red carpets. Just truth." She smiles. "Lot 47 Studios." He chuckles. "You're better at branding than I am." "I used to be a producer before journalism," she says. "Bad habit." They stand together in the sunlight. A car honks somewhere down the street. The smell of grilled onions drifts from Marco's taco stand. For a moment, everything feels like a scene he never planned to shoot but always hoped to live. Later that afternoon, Jada helps him set up the booth as a makeshift stage. Jaden connects his speakers, looping his beat louder now, drawing a small crowd from the sidewalk. A mother and daughter stop to listen. A man in a mechanic's uniform nods along, eyes closed. Will takes the microphone from Jaden's trembling hands. "You sure about this, kid?" "Go on, man," Jaden says. "Your turn to drop something real." Will laughs under his breath and faces the crowd. "Hey everyone. I'm Will. I used to think truth had to be shouted to be heard. Turns out, you just have to stand still long enough to let people recognize it. The crowd quiets. This lot was supposed to be temporary, he continues. A place people pass through. But somewhere along the way, it started holding stories. Yours, mine, the ones we didn't know we needed to hear. My friend D painted that crown because he believed we were all kings once. I think he was right. We just forget sometimes. He points to the mural. So let's not forget anymore. Applause breaks out, soft at first, then louder. Someone whistles. Someone shouts, "We love you, Will." He smiles but shakes his head. Don't love me. Love the truth. It's the only thing that doesn't age. Jaden switches the beat again, faster, stronger, and the crowd claps in rhythm. For a moment, Will feels the pulse of the city beating through the concrete. Not the Hollywood he knew, the real city. The one that forgives slow and loves deep. Jada films a few seconds quietly, not for headlines, but for memory. That night, Will locks the booth for the last time. He knows he'll be back tomorrow, and the next day, but it feels right to close it properly, like lowering the curtain after a good performance. The moon is high, silver light pooling across the asphalt. The mural gleams like it's alive. Jada lingers by the fence. You realize you started something bigger than yourself, right? He shrugs. I didn't start it. I just stopped standing in its way. She steps closer. You ever think about telling your story again? On camera? He shakes his head. No. I think I already have. She smiles, understanding. Then I'll tell it for you. He looks at her. You'd do that. Someone has to. The world deserves to see what grace looks like when it parks itself and refuses to move. He laughs softly. You and your headlines. Admit it, she says. That one's not bad. Not bad, he agrees. They watch as Jaden finishes packing his gear. He waves goodnight, earbuds around his neck, energy still buzzing. Kid's got something, Jada says. Yeah, Will says. He's the next chapter. An hour later, alone now, Will sits on the curb with his back to the booth. The city hums around him, sirens, laughter, a passing bus, and it all sounds like music. He takes out the script, Lot 47, the pages frayed and stained. On the first page, under the title, he writes one final line. Based on a true story, the kind we almost missed. He closes it gently, like a prayer, then places it inside the booth drawer. Above him, a breeze stirs. The gold crown catches the light from a passing car and throws it back into the night, a flash of faith in motion. Will stands, stretching. He looks once more at the mural, the words he painted beneath it, see each other, and feels something like peace settle in his chest. Tomorrow, there'll be more noise. More interviews. More people trying to spin the truth into something profitable. But tonight, the lot belongs to the quiet, the holy kind. He whispers, thank you, to the air, not sure who he's thanking. Maybe D. Maybe Jada. Maybe the kid with the backpack who believed in him when he didn't. Then he walks away, slow and sure, leaving the crown to shine for whoever needs to find it next. Behind him, the faint echo of Jaden's beat fades into the night. Steady, heartbeat strong, and somewhere in the rhythm, Will swears he hears a blessing. The city moves on fast. It always does. By the end of the week, the hearing footage has been clipped, memed, debated, and buried under new scandals. But Lot 47 still hums quietly, alive, steady, sacred in its own small way. Every morning, someone new stops by. A nurse on her lunch break. A father teaching his son to ride a bike between the painted lines. A homeless vet who just needs somewhere safe to sit. Will lets them stay. The rules are different now. He still wears the uniform, but not because he has to. It's armor now, a reminder that humility isn't weakness. It's protection. He thought peace would feel easy. It doesn't. It feels expensive. The first hint comes on a Tuesday morning. A courier in a navy suit walks up to the booth and slides an envelope through the slot. No words, no eye contact. Just business. Will opens it and reads. Offer of purchase. Confidential buyer. Unlisted. Amount. $8.7 million. Condition: immediate transfer. No publicity. No questions. Attached is a note, handwritten. You've done enough good here. Let it go before it destroys you again. No signature, but he knows the handwriting. Elias Monroe. His former business manager, the man who turned his trust into a laundering hub. The man who disappeared when things fell apart. Will leans back in his chair and exhales. Of course it's you, he murmurs. That evening, Jada arrives. She reads the letter twice before speaking. It's a buyout, she says. A golden bribe. They think they can buy peace, Will replies. They can buy silence, she corrects. There's a difference. He looks out at the lot. Jaden is teaching a group of kids how to set up tripods, showing them how to frame light against the mural. Laughter fills the air. The smell of tacos drifts across the street. They want to take this, Will says quietly. This little patch of mercy. Jada leans on the counter. You could sell it, you know. Walk away clean. You'd have enough money to start anywhere. No one would blame you. He studies her. Would you? She hesitates. I'd understand. He smiles sadly. That's not the same thing. That night, he dreams of the past. He's back on stage. Brighter lights, louder crowd. He's standing in a tuxedo, smiling, playing the part. Every flash of the camera feels like approval, but each one burns a little. In the dream, he drops his award, and when it hits the ground, it shatters. Not glass, not metal, but mirrors. Dozens of tiny reflections staring up at him, each one asking the same question. What did you trade for applause? He wakes before dawn, sweating, heart racing. The city outside is quiet. The kind of quiet that's not peace but warning. By morning, he's made his decision. He sets the offer letter on the counter, writes declined in thick black marker, and tucks it into an envelope. He doesn't bother finding a courier. The people who sent it will know soon enough. Jada arrives a few hours later, out of breath. You sure about this? Yeah, he says. The lot stays. She studies him, then nods. Then they'll come harder. I know. What's your plan? He looks up at the crown. Tell the truth again. Louder this time. That afternoon, he holds a press conference. Not a formal one, just a gathering of anyone who wants to listen. The lot fills with locals, students, and street artists. Jaden sets up a live stream on his cracked phone. Will stands in front of the mural, microphone in hand. No suit. No stage lights. Just sunlight. I got an offer this week, he begins. A good one. Enough money to disappear, to stop fighting, to let someone else decide what this place becomes. But Lot 47 was never about me. It's about all the people who park here for 5 minutes and remember they matter. It's about every story that wasn't good enough for the news but was good enough to live. He gestures around him. So here's my answer to whoever thinks the truth can be bought. No sale. Not today. Not ever. Applause erupts, not thunderous, but strong, rooted. Jada films it all, smiling faintly. You just painted yourself into history again, she whispers. Good, he says. Maybe this time I'll like the frame. Later that night, after the crowd leaves, he finds a new note taped to the booth window. No envelope this time. Just paper. You made your choice. Remember that silence isn't the only weapon. He reads it twice, then burns it in an ashtray. The smoke curls up toward the ceiling like a ghost losing shape. The next morning, the power is out. He checks the breaker, fine. The cables, intact. But the main switch box near the fence has been gutted. Every wire cut clean. He sighs, rubbing his temple. Guess they're done playing polite. By noon, the taco stand loses power too. Then the corner store. A rolling blackout, but only this block. Coincidence? Not likely. Jada arrives, furious. They're trying to starve you out. Kill the lot by killing the neighborhood. He nods. Then we feed it ourselves. That evening, they set up solar lights, portable speakers, food from the taco stand. People bring candles. Musicians show up, uninvited but welcome. The whole block glows like a festival. Jaden's beat starts again, stronger now, echoing off the walls. Will takes the mic, smiling at the crowd. They cut the power, he says, but not the current. Laughter ripples through the night. The news catches wind. Within hours, the live stream explodes. Hashtag Lot 47 Lights spreads across social media. People from all over the city arrive, candles in hand, cell phones raised. By midnight, the block is radiant. The crown gleams brighter than any streetlight. Later, when the noise fades and only embers remain, Will stands alone by the mural. Jada joins him quietly. You know they won't stop. He nods. Neither will we. She studies his face. You think all this is worth it? Losing the money, the comfort, the quiet. He looks at the crown. Quiet was never peace. It was just fear dressed as rest. She smiles softly. You've changed. He shakes his head. Maybe I just finally heard myself think. When she leaves, he locks up the booth, the solar lights still glowing faintly behind him. The lot hums with the memory of voices and music. He looks one last time at the mural. The crown glints in the moonlight, but now the words beneath it look different. Less like graffiti, more like a vow. See each other. He runs a hand over the paint. I see you, he says softly, to the city, to the ghosts, to the kid who still believes. The breeze answers with a whisper. The night folds itself gently around him. And somewhere between the pulse of the beat and the silence that follows, Will finally understands the cost of truth. It isn't noise. It isn't fame. It's the price of quiet, refusing to sell your peace for their comfort. And tonight, that price feels like freedom. Rain came that night, soft at first, then heavy enough to drown the hum of the city. It slid down the mural in long silver lines, washing the crown until it looked almost alive. Will stood beneath the awning of the booth, jacket zipped, watching the downpour turn the lot into a mirror. Every reflection in the puddles shimmered like a second world, one he'd already lived through once. He didn't know how long he'd been standing there when Jada's SUV pulled in. She didn't bother with an umbrella. She sprinted across the lot, soaked but smiling. They blinked, she said breathlessly. Trenton's in custody. His partners are next. The city board voted to freeze every account connected to Urban Holdings. Will blinked. Wait, our accounts? She hesitated. Yes. Yours too. He exhaled, slow. So I'm clean, but broke. She nodded. For now. He laughed softly, shaking his head. Fitting. Back to zero. Jada stepped closer, rain running down her face. You could start over, Will. For real this time. You've already changed the story. People trust you again. He smiled faintly. That's what scares me. What do you mean? He looked out at the mural. Trust turns into expectation. Expectation turns into noise. And I'm not sure I can live in that again. She frowned. You don't have to. This isn't about fame. It's about ownership. Will looked back at her, eyes tired but kind. That's the problem, Jada. The world doesn't know the difference. The rain slowed around midnight, but the quiet didn't last. A noise echoed from the far side of the lot, metal scraping asphalt. Will turned. A van sat half-hidden near the alley, its back doors wide open. Two men in city uniforms he didn't recognize were hauling something heavy out. Boxes, cables, crates marked city property. He whispered, They're not done. Jada followed his gaze. Let's call it in. He shook his head. By the time they get here, it'll all be gone. Without waiting, he started across the lot. His boots splashed through puddles. Hey, he called out. The men froze. One of them dropped a box, spilling metal equipment across the ground. The other reached for something at his belt. Will kept walking, hands raised. You're late for inspection, fellas. Power's been out 2 days. The first man hesitated. The second didn't. He drew a baton. Before Will could react, Jada's voice cut through the air. You're on camera, she shouted. The men froze again. The red recording light from her phone glowed in the rain. Step back, one of them barked. Sure, Will said, still calm. After you tell me who sent you. The man sneered. You think one hearing fixes a system? You embarrassed powerful people. That never ends well. Will tilted his head. Maybe not. But it ends tonight. A moment of silence. Then the van's engine roared. The men jumped inside, tires spinning, mud flying. The van shot down the alley, splashing rainwater across the mural. Jada lowered her phone, shaking. Please tell me that saved. Will smiled grimly. Even if it didn't, I saw their faces. That's enough. By morning, the lot was a crime scene. Police tape. Reporters. Floodlights. An officer walked over to Will. You realize you're on every news feed in the city again? He shrugged. Better reason this time. The officer smirked. They tried to shut you down, and you gave them a national headline. Guess I'm consistent. Jada handed him a thermos of coffee. You need to sleep. He shook his head. Can't. Too much noise up here. He tapped his temple lightly. Every time I close my eyes, I see the booth, the crown, the kid with the phone. It's like the story won't let me rest. She studied him. Then maybe it's not done yet. That afternoon, the mayor's office released a statement. Due to substantial evidence of systemic corruption within city maintenance contracts, a special investigation will commence immediately. Will read it on his phone and laughed out loud. Special investigation, he muttered. That's politician for, we got caught. But beneath the humor, pride stirred. Jaden arrived later with a grin wide enough to light the whole block. You see the news? You're trending again, man. They're calling you, the booth prophet. Will groaned. Please don't let that stick. Too late, Jaden said. They already made fan art. Jada showed him her screen. The mural had become a symbol, painted, printed, shared in cities across the country. Always the crown, always the phrase see each other. Looks like the world heard you, she said. He shook his head. I wasn't talking to the world. I was talking to us. Same thing, she said softly. That night, Will sat alone in the booth. The lot was empty. The rain had stopped, leaving everything clean and quiet. He stared at the mural, the reflection of the gold crown shimmering on the puddled ground. 4 months, he'd been fighting to keep this place alive. But now, for the first time, he felt something shift inside him. Not exhaustion, not triumph. Just understanding. This wasn't about saving a parking lot. It was about saving a piece of himself that believed truth was still worth the noise. He took out the script again, Lot 47, and flipped to the last blank page. The paper was damp at the edges, the ink from earlier notes bleeding slightly. He wrote, Some stories don't end. They just change form. The crown stays. The kingdom learns. He closed it, slid it into the drawer beside the old keychain D. Carter had given him. Then he looked up at the mural one last time and whispered, I kept your kingdom safe, brother. As he turned off the booth light, he heard footsteps behind him. He spun, ready for more inspectors, more threats. But it was Jada. You leaving? She asked quietly. For tonight. She nodded. You'll come back. He looked out at the horizon, the skyline flickering through the mist. Maybe. Maybe not. The lot doesn't need me anymore. She stepped closer. You know that's not true. He smiled softly. Sure it is. I was just the parking attendant. The people were the gate. Jada's eyes shimmered. You changed this city. He shook his head. The city just finally looked at itself. They stood in silence for a while, the night folding around them. Finally, she said, If this is the last scene, it's a good one. He chuckled. Every scene's the last one if you shoot it right. Then he handed her the booth key. You keep it, just in case the story wants a sequel. Jada smiled, tears cutting through the rain on her cheeks. You sure? Yeah, he said. I'm better as a guest star. He walked away without looking back, his reflection fading from the puddles as the lights dimmed. Behind him, Jada turned the key over in her hand and whispered, Lights, camera, memory. The crown glowed faintly above the lot, and the night held its breath, knowing the story wasn't over. Not really. The booth was empty now. But for the first time, it didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. The sky above Los Angeles breaks open in gold and rose, the kind of morning light that forgives the city for everything it's ever done. The lot is quiet again, washed clean by a night of rain. Dew clings to the mural, turning the crown into a halo that catches every bit of sun. Will stands at the far end of the lot with his hands in his jacket pockets, coffee cooling in his grip. He's not supposed to be here. He told himself last night that he was done, that the story was finished. But endings never stick. Not for people like him. There's a strange comfort in the stillness. The booth looks smaller than he remembers. The paint's chipped, the glass smudged. Imperfect. Honest. He walks toward it slowly, each step heavy with a kind of nostalgia that doesn't hurt anymore. Inside, everything is exactly as he left it. The folded script, the burned-out desk lamp, the key drawer. The faint scent of coffee and rain. On the counter sits a note, written in Jada's neat handwriting. The studio is ready. You said you'd only tell stories worth telling. I think we have one now. J. Will smiles. He looks out the window at the lot, now empty but alive in memory. In the distance, Jaden's new mural stretches along the fence, a continuation of the old one. The same gold crown, but now surrounded by faces. Dozens of them. Different ages, colors, stories. Beneath it, in white paint, we see each other. He laughs under his breath. You upgraded it. Jada pulls up an hour later. She doesn't honk, doesn't wave. Just steps out and joins him by the booth. I knew you'd come, she says. Guess I can't quit the habit. She hands him a tablet. On the screen is a video thumbnail titled Lot 47, the documentary. Below it, view count, 1.3 million and climbing. It's live, she says softly. You're in it, whether you like it or not. He smirks. Do I sound wiser or just tired? A little of both, she says. People are responding. Donations are pouring in. Jaden's been offered a scholarship. The city wants to recognize this place as a heritage site. Will stares at her, blinking. A heritage site? For a parking lot. For what it became, she corrects. For what you turned it into. He looks around, quiet. I didn't turn it into anything. It just showed me what it already was. By noon, the lot starts to fill, not with cars, but with people. Familiar faces. The taco stand owner, the nurse, the mechanic, the father and son on the bike. Even the cops who used to patrol the block. They're not here for tickets or towing, they're here to celebrate. A stage has been set up in front of the mural. Speakers buzz, microphones check, kids run between folding chairs. The community turned the place into a block festival. Will stands off to the side, arms crossed, half amused and half overwhelmed. When they call his name, he doesn't move at first. He's not used to walking toward applause anymore. But Jada nudges him, and Jaden's grin seals it. He steps up to the microphone. The cheers quiet down. For a moment, he just looks at them, all these faces glowing under sunlight and hope. Funny thing about parking lots, he begins. They're meant for waiting. 4 pauses between destinations. But sometimes the pause becomes the place. Soft laughter ripples through the crowd. He continues, voice steady. This lot started as a punishment. A way to disappear quietly. But it gave me something fame never could, a reason. A reminder that truth doesn't need a camera or an audience. It just needs witnesses. And all of you showed up. He looks up at the mural. So if this is the last shift, I just want to say thank you, for parking your hearts here long enough for me to find mine again. The applause that follows isn't loud. It's warm. A human kind of noise. After the event, the crowd thins. The sun dips low, painting everything in amber. Jaden packs up his gear, then walks over. You sure you're leaving this time? Will nods. I've got a movie to make, apparently. Jaden laughs. Then who's watching the lot? You are, Will says simply. It's yours now. Jaden freezes. You serious? Dead serious. The deed's been transferred. Jada helped me handle it this morning. Lot 47 belongs to you and the community now. The boy stares at him, speechless. Why me? Because you showed up when everyone else drove past. Because you didn't wait for permission to believe in something real. Don't lose that. Jaden wipes his eyes. I don't even know what to say. Will pats his shoulder. Say you'll keep the beat going. Jaden laughs through the tears. Always. Night comes quietly. The lot glows again. Candles, lights, music, voices fading into the breeze. Jada stands beside him one last time, both of them watching as Jaden's beat fills the air. You're really walking away, she says softly. I'm not walking away, he replies. I'm walking forward. She nods, smiling. You think you'll miss it? He looks up at the crown. I'll miss who I was here. But maybe that's the point. They stand together in silence, listening to the rhythm echo off the buildings. Jada glances at him. If this were a movie, how would you end it? Will thinks for a long moment, eyes on the mural, the crown, the faces, the glow. I wouldn't, he says finally. I'd just let the credits roll over the sound of the city breathing. She smiles. Then that's how I'll write it. He grins. Just make sure the title stays. Lot 47. He shakes his head. See each other. That's what it was always called. When Jada leaves, Will lingers one last time. He unlocks the booth, turns on the old desk lamp, and sits in the chair where it all began. He writes a single line on the back of the last page of his script. When the noise fades, look for the crown. He tucks it under the counter, next to the keychain, and steps outside. The mural glows softly in the dark. The gold crown reflects against the puddles, stretching its light far beyond the fence. Will tilts his head, smiles, and whispers, shifts over. Then he walks into the night, quiet, steady, unhurried, disappearing into the rhythm of the city he helped wake up. And for once, he doesn't look back. The camera lingers on the mural, the words below it now catching the last bit of light. We see each other. Fade to black. Heartbeat. Silence.